Good morning, community. Thank you all for joining our meeting this morning, our second fall financial aid community meeting. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you all of a couple of housekeeping courtesies. First of all, if you will be so kind as to mute your mics and or your phones. If you are not speaking, please, if at all possible, close your doors if you can do so. And also, we encourage you to use the chat feature or unmute yourself to ask questions during the presentation. And I just want to remind you all now that the presentation is being recorded. Next slide, please. I have a couple of announcements for you, a couple of announcements and updates. First of all, I'd like to let you know that it is not too late to register for the free Federal Student Aid Conference that's being held virtually November 29th through December 2nd. If you all have been out to the FSA Connect website to register and you've registered, you will see that there is a draft agenda available. There is absolutely no cost to attend this conference. And one good thing about it is many of the sessions are being recorded. And if you don't have time to listen to them during the conference itself, you can certainly download presentations and go back and receive the recordings up to 6 months or longer after the conference itself. So sign up today through FSA Partner Connect, the website to FSA Partner Connect, and I know that many of you are already signed up for those weekly announcements, but I did put the web address in our resources page for you. Second announcement is the Office of Inspector General, the Department of Education, has reached out to one of our colleges, and they forwarded the information to me. They want to provide to us some fraud prevention training. This fraud prevention training, we do have a date in mind for this particular training. It's February 8th of 2023, and this training is specific for our colleges that offer loans. So I think there's about 14 or 15 of our colleges that are still offering direct loans. So I would like for you to make sure that you make some room on your calendar for this particular training. The time will be sent to you as soon as it is confirmed, but it is specific to our colleges that are still offering loans. So according to my count, there's about 14 colleges that offer loans. And I would like to ask this morning if you would be so kind as to confirm that your college is, for colleges that are participating in the loan program, to make sure that my records are accurate. If you would be so kind as to send me an email and let me know that you are participating, and maybe that loan contact person. It is important that I get this information because this training, again, is specific to those colleges that are offering loans. And according to the officer, Ms. Nicole Dotson, the session cannot be recorded. And again, please get that information to me if you're participating in the loan program. A third announcement is the North Carolina Tuition Assistance Program and the Federal Tuition Assistance Program. There's some training that will be offered soon to our community colleges. I know that I sent out an announcement the other day with some training that was pretty much short notice, but Ms. Reed did let us know about those colleges that were providing the training during the webinar a couple weeks ago. A few of our colleges have reached out, and I have connected them, or will connect them, with Ms. Reed, and hopefully she'll be able to offer some training at our colleges, at some of our colleges, and we will likely extend an invitation for other area colleges to make the commute shorter and or offer some virtual options. Lastly is the Financial Aid Leadership Academy. The Academy is an excellent opportunity for our financial aid professionals, whether you are new or seasoned. A lot of times we don't think about having a succession plan, or we do have a succession plan, but it doesn't always work the way that we want it to. So again, the Leadership Academy is an excellent opportunity for us to just kind of take a deeper dive into the world of financial aid. And it's not just for financial aid administrators. This year, I'm proud to announce that we have people across our institutions that have signed up to attend the Leadership Academy. We have controllers, we have accountants, we have deans from different areas of student services, and again, our financial aid folks. So this is a scenario that I always like to use. What will happen if your InShed and your FISAP are due pretty much around the same time, right? Or within a couple months of each other. Your financial aid director wins the lottery and skips out. Who's going to, do those reports, or who knows even how to gather that information? So it's just something for you to think about. And I know that $1,900 sounds like a whole lot. And I know that for financial aid folks, it's kind of hard to get out of our offices for 3 days at a time, but this is well worth it. It is well worth it. And right now we have maybe about 3 remaining slots. We were shooting for a class of 20, and we have 17 applicants so far. So again, it's not too late. If you're interested, please, please, please reach out to me no later than Thursday of this week. Friday is a holiday for most of us. So again, don't rule out the 22-23 Financial Aid Leadership Academy. Next slide, please. Want to talk to you a little bit about the Workforce Resilience Grant Program. This is, it was just recently approved in the October board meeting, and it's a $5 million allocation to provide financial assistance of up to $750 per course, or the total cost of a program. This is a CE program. The program is scheduled to run from August 15th of 2022, and yes, I do realize that we're in November already, through August 30 of 2023. However, right now, these funds are contingent. We are waiting for signature approval and the disbursement from the governor's office and the Office of Pandemic Recovery, NCPRO. So as soon as we find out that the funding is in place, we have been working behind the scenes to make sure that everything is in place. So you all will receive a numbered memo, and that will come from probably our president's area or his chief of staff. But that numbered memo will provide you with guidance, including workflows and anything that is specific to that particular grant program. The grant program will require an application, and I want to go ahead and let you know that this one is unlike the short-term workforce development grant program. Short-term workforce development required a RDS to determine residency. This one is going to be a little bit differently, and I think that some of our colleges have already heard a little bit about it. This one will require a statement, an attestation. The student will indicate that they are either a North Carolina resident or they're living in some of our border states, and agree that they're working in North Carolina or plan to be employed in North Carolina. We will be providing a webinar. Karen Tinkerman, Director of Workforce Continuing Education and Training Programs, along with myself, will do a webinar in the upcoming weeks to provide you with more information about Workforce Resilience Grant Program. And this was monies that were through the GEAR 2 funding. I know that if you looked in the colleague setup guide, you do see Workforce Resilience Grant Program, but that was the first round of GEAR funding. Next slide, please. So that is all from me. If there are any questions regarding any of the information that I have just shared with you, would you be so kind as to unmute yourself or put your questions in the chat? Okay, seeing no questions in the chat and nobody's unmuted, what I'd like to do now is turn the rest of the presentation or the meeting over to Dr. Wanda White, and she's going to provide you with the latest and greatest on the Golden Leaf Scholarship Program. And this will serve as one of our required Golden Leaf Program Administrators Workshop. Dr. White?
Good morning, everybody. I want to take this opportunity to welcome all of you to our first Golden Leaf Scholars workshop for this year. We're excited about being able to offer this opportunity to everyone. I also want to thank everyone for their attention to our questions and emails in regard to our most recent program review and audits of the 2018-19, 2019-20, 2020-21, and 2021-22 program review and audits. We really appreciate your responses and assistance in resolving any questions that we have. Today's agenda includes several different items, so I want to take a moment and go through those items. We're first going to talk about the Golden Leaf allocation for the 22-23 year, and then we're going to move to those important people that you need to keep in contact if you get questions in regard to Golden Leaf. There are specific individuals that you'll may hear from throughout the year. In addition to that, I also want to talk about Golden Leaf reporting requirements and the importance of reconciling. During our most recent year, we realized how important it was for colleges to maintain good reconciliation records as it related to Golden Leaf. And then, of course, we'll talk about training requirements, student eligibility requirements. This workshop, along with others that we'll do during this academic year, are part of Golden Leaf's program management requirements for the system office. And we're also going to offer a workshop as early as January 2023, in which you'll have the opportunity to hear from some of your colleagues in regard to their process in terms of how they award Golden Leaf to students. The Golden Leaf Foundation does require that all colleges participating in the Golden Leaf program that they do attend the program management training sessions that we'll be offering in the future. So I want to thank all of you again for participating in this workshop. Also, I want to remind you that if you have questions while we're proceeding through the training, that if you will put your questions in the chat box and we will get to those questions. If there are questions that we do not have the answer for, then we'll definitely get back with you. So I just wanted to remind you of that. Next area that we will cover during the training will include eligible counties. We all know how important the eligible counties are as it relates to awarding Golden Leaf. We'll talk about awarding the Golden Leaf scholarships through colleague. There are specific codes that you will need to award Golden Leaf. So we want to make sure that all of you are aware of that and you're using colleague to award your Golden Leaf awards. We'll talk about award reporting and tips because that's going to be very important. There are several reports that you'll have to submit to the system office as it relates to Golden Leaf. In addition to that, we'll talk about the resources that are available to you to ensure that you're implementing your programs in the most efficient way. And then we'll have an opportunity to ask questions and we'll provide answers to that. And then, as I indicated before, our next training session will be in January of 2023. And that date will be announced probably sometime before we take our Christmas break. So the next thing that I want to talk about is the Golden Leaf allocation for the 22-23 year. The allocation for this year is $1,750,000. And all of those funds will go out. They are actually planned to go out to community colleges in North Carolina. This year, since the last several years, all of our schools are participating in the Golden Leaf program. So we're excited about that. We do not have any colleges that have decided or to decline participating in the program. So the award notification went out to you on August of 19, 2022, went out right after the state board meeting in which they approved the participation in the Golden Leaf program. So colleges, there are a couple of things that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned to you, that colleges are warned that failure to use at least 50% of the allocated funds may be subject to a reduction in funding or suspension from participating in the program. Now, this is part of our 2022-23 contract with Golden Leaf. So we want to make sure that you're all very aware of that. Priority funding will be made available to college and rural counties that are economically distressed or tobacco dependent as determined by Golden Leaf. We have provided a listing of all of the eligible counties, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation as well. All Golden Leaf Scholarship funds, we're encouraging you to award those funds to students by May 31st of 2023. So I want to make sure that I share that. Also, at this moment in time, I definitely want to remind you all to use the Golden Leaf dashboard that we provided to you. There's also a link that we're going to put in the message box, chat box, in which you can go to and see what your Golden Leaf awards are. It's important to do that and also look at the expenditures that your business office report. Currently, the numbers of awards that have been made by colleges as it relates to Golden Leaf for the 22-23 fall semesters is very low. We have about $138,331 that have been made in Golden Leaf awards this year. We also have a total of 213 awards. All of this information you can see if you go out to the dashboard. You can see what your college has awarded. You can see what your business office has turned over to our business office as it relates to expenditures. And I'm almost sure that we only have about maybe three colleges that have reported expenditures through their business office for the 22-23 year. So we're hoping to be able to see more expenditure requests later in this month. So next, we're going to move on to the Golden Leaf Scholarship contact list. Many of you have received notifications from Brenda Burgess, Social Director of Student Aid, and you've received contact information or questions regarding audits, program reviews, or amounts spent from me. So we will be your initial contacts, Brenda Burgess and myself. Also, you may at some point in time receive some correspondence from Dr. James J.W. Kelly, who is the Associate Vice President of Student Services. But these are your contacts, and these are the individuals that you will hear from throughout, you may hear from throughout the year. So I wanted to make sure we share that information with you. And in addition to that, you'll see the contact list on in the resource area as well as we end this presentation. Let's talk about Golden Leaf College reporting requirements. There are 3 reports that you will be required to submit to the system office. Those reports are due at different times of the year. And so I've outlined them here. I want to make sure that all of you are aware of them. We encourage you to put these report dates on your calendar. You're going to receive reminders from Brenda Burgess and myself in regard to these reports. The very first report, this is the fall report 2022, and it's going to consist of all of the awards that you've made in the fall from August through December. That report is due no later than January 13, 2023. Your spring report will be due no later than May 12, 2023. And your last report that will be to us is summer of 2023, which will be no later than July 14, 2023. Each one of your reports should be accurate. It should be correct. There will be a new certification item on your report when you complete it this year that will be required by all colleges to submit along with your spreadsheet. And basically, your certification statement will indicate that you have checked and rechecked your information that you're submitting to us, and that you have verified your awards that you've made along with the information, the award information that your business office has. So this is very, very important. Instructions for completion of these reports, again, will be provided by Brenda Burgess and myself. And Golden Leaf Scholarship Awards, as I indicated, should match your college business office records. So you want to make sure that you check them throughout the month as you're awarding to make sure that you're aware of all of the eligible counties and to ensure that these reports are checked before you submit them to us again. Okay, so let's talk about Golden Leaf Scholarship Program reporting. Last year, of course, we began monitoring the program probably in October or November of last year. We started that process again. Monitoring and the Golden Leaf program is definitely one of our requirements by the Golden Leaf Foundation. So we'll be looking at your total awards, the percentage of awards that you've made, and we're also looking at the expenditures that your business office has requested. If for some reason that there is a long period of time between September and let's say December where you've made awards but no expenditures have been requested, then you'll probably get a call or an email from myself or from Brenda Burgess, just indicating that we're a little concerned. We haven't received any requests for funding from your business office. Normally we receive those requests from your business office around the 25th of the month. Now we understand that the allocations for Golden Leaf were just, the allocation funds were just received a couple of weeks ago. And so your business offices have been notified, and we are expecting to see more requests for funding from your business office to the system office after the 25th of this month. As you work in awarding your students, please develop a process in which you reconcile your Golden Leaf records with your business office on a monthly basis. We have quite a few colleges that do that, and their records match exactly to what the business office has requested. And then we have a few where there are some adjustments that are made during the year that is normal, that sometimes individuals may forget to go back and make the adjustments. But what we're requesting to make the process easier for Golden Leaf and easier for us, because once we get the spreadsheets, we do have to review them to make sure that all of the information that you submit is correct. And that's another reason why we're asking that you double check your records, ensure that you check them for ineligible counties, and also that you check your records with the business office. Any reports that we get, and if they're incorrect and we send them to Golden Leaf will not send a payment for your spreadsheets until we have corrected all of that information. We wanted to make sure that we shared that with you. Okay, let's talk about the importance of reconciliation. I just mentioned reconciliation. Why is it important? It's important because if we receive your records and there are ineligible counties, students being awarded from ineligible counties, it means that that information, if we send it to Golden Leaf, that Golden Leaf will not pay us. So it also creates more time for us at the system office to go through your reports, to double check and look for the ineligible counties. So it is very important that you do that work on the front end so that once we receive it and review it and sign off on it and send it to Golden Leaf, that we can receive the funding much sooner. Also, the best thing that I can recommend, and also Brenda as well, is for you to develop a process in which you are checking your awards each month with your business office to make sure that all of the adjustments have been made and that the expenditures match. Okay, so let's talk about training requirements. You've heard me speak just a few minutes ago about the fact that we will offer program management workshops throughout the year. And we'll do that as needed, as we feel like they're needed. It is a requirement of Golden Leaf that we ensure that these funds are available to all eligible students. And in order to do that, we want to make sure that the colleges have a good and clear understanding of how to develop policies and procedures to ensure that the funds are getting out there, not just to curriculum students, but to continuing education students as well. And let's talk about the reallocation period. The reallocation period for Golden Leaf is between January 1 and February 28th of 2023. As we monitor the Golden Leaf Awards, we'll start looking at those colleges who haven't awarded any money at all or very, very low percentages. And what we will do is we'll reach out to you to find out if in fact you are going to be able to spend those funds, to award those funds to eligible students. If you cannot, if you are unable to, then we ask that you notify us so that we can reallocate those monies as early as March 1st. We were able to actually maintain a short reallocation list last year, reoffer some additional money to some other colleges that could actually use some money. However, we still had a few people that did not award all of their money. So we want to make sure that this year we're on the mark with that. So if you have expended less than 50%, then we'll probably reach out to you as well, just to confirm that your college is working on reallocating those funds. Because one of the things that we don't want to do is to have to return money to Golden Leaf from the $1,750,000. We want the students from the North Carolina community college system to benefit from these scholarship funds. So we're going to move on to the next slide. Again, another thing that is really, really important that we share to you this year is that at least 25% of the funds must be reserved for students enrolled in a workforce continuing education course that's offered for at least 96 contact hours and leads to a state or industry recognized credential. Our contract this year indicates that colleges who do not award, all colleges are required to award their 25% to continuing ed students. So we're encouraging you to do that, because if for any reason you don't do it, it is very possible that your reallocation for the 23-24 year will be reduced. Financial aid directors and Golden Leaf Scholars coordinators should be familiar with the Golden Leaf allocation chart. This allocation chart was sent to you with the approval of the Golden Leaf grants and scholarships in August, and a copy of the allocation chart has been attached to the presentation, to this presentation. It actually has the amount that your college should award in Golden Leaf funds in curriculum as well as continuing education. One of the reasons that we want to bring some colleges together to share their best practices in January is so that they can share with you some of those processes that they developed in order to identify and award not just curriculum students, but award continuing education students as well. So we want you to make sure that you're familiar with the allocation, and that your college, if you don't have a process that you've used consistently in the past, we want you to develop one so you can begin awarding those funds and your students won't be impacted. Let's talk about student eligibility requirements. And I know you may be asking, because many of you have been involved in the Golden Leaf Scholarship Program for quite a bit of time. And I say that we're sharing this information because in the past, we have had quite a few ineligible students that somehow show up on the Golden Leaf spreadsheets. Either they were inadvertently added or the wrong county was picked up, but it's going to be even more important for you to make sure that before you send those reports in, that the student that's awarded is from an eligible county. And the scholarships are limited to students who demonstrate financial need and reside in the rural county that is tobacco dependent. So I want to make sure that you're familiar with the eligible counties and about the eligibility requirements. And again, the maximum awards that curriculum students can receive is $2,250 a year. Continuing education students, $1,850 a year. And Golden Leaf funds may be used for the total cost of attendance. So we want to remind you of that as well. Awards are made for the fall. They're made for spring. They can be made for summer, but they are made for individual terms. All summer awards must be made by May 31st. All awards must be made by May 31st, and they should be transmitted before June 30th, 2023. And the reason for this is because if you make awards and your business office do not transmit those awards to the system office until July, then Golden Leaf is not going to pay us for those scholarship awards. The award period ends June 30th, 2023. So I want to make sure. We also want to notify and warn colleges again regarding the failure to spend at least 50% of the funds that it may lead to a reduction of future allocations or possibly a suspension from participating in the Golden Leaf program. This information is in our contract, our Golden Leaf contract that we signed this year. So it's very important that as we are aware of the requirements, that the colleges are too. And that's another reason why we're working very closely with you to make sure that we share as much information as possible so that each college can meet the requirement and is enabled to administer the Golden Leaf program by the requirements. Okay, so let's talk about eligible counties. We shared this information regarding eligible Golden Leaf counties for the 22-23 year in our last September community meeting. And I want to make sure that everyone is aware that there were 4 counties that were left off from the list this year that were eligible last year. So please pay attention, make sure that you're using the correct eligible county year. The 2021-2022 year does not have the same list of eligible counties as the 22-23 year list has. Brunswick, Haywood, and Johnson and Pender are no longer eligible counties. I want to make sure that you're aware of that. Recipients who reside in qualifying counties during the initial award year, including awards made prior to August 1st, 2022, these students will still retain eligibility and will be eligible for renewal awards as long as they are residents of North Carolina and they meet other scholarship requirements. So we want to make sure that you're aware of that. If the student started out at your school from an eligible county and later in the year moves to an ineligible county, that student can still consistently receive Golden Leaf as long as they are enrolled at your institution. Okay, so let's go to eligible counties. Again, these are just some notes that I wanted to make sure that you all were aware of to do, and many of you are you're doing that. You're looking at the county listing prior to awarding Golden Leaf. And so we just wanted to mention that again, that students receiving Golden Leaf scholarship awards must reside in those eligible counties. And I won't go back through that again, but I just want to make sure that in your Golden Leaf resource information that you have that updated listing of Golden Leaf eligible counties. And also, again, I want to mention that this year there will be a certification statement that will be included on the spreadsheet that you must sign and return to the system office with your reports by the required deadlines. And this includes a statement that verifies the accuracy of your report before you submit it. That is why it's very, very important that you meet with your business office or your business office representative to make sure that your reports each month matches theirs. Okay, awarding Golden Leaf using Kali. It is important to make sure that you are using Kali to award Golden Leaf. We ask that you review the Golden Leaf Scholarship Guide for Kali use and directions. You can go to the ServiceNow portal to locate the Golden Leaf Scholarship Guide, and you can review the setup information in the guide. I'll make sure that everybody is paying attention to that. Okay, so before I end the presentation, I want to just give you a few awarding and reporting tips that I think will be important not only for your college, your colleges, but also that will be very helpful to the system office as we work together to clear your reports prior to submitting them to Golden Leaf for payment. We want to make sure that you're submitting timely reports. Those dates that I provided to you earlier in the presentation, please make sure you maintain those dates, maintain this presentation so that you can go back and review it. So you don't have to wait until we send you a notice about Golden Leaf reports being due. You can also develop your reports as you go along, or once you've awarded all of your funds, you can look at that and you can go back to make sure that there are no errors in the report. But we want to make sure that if you have any questions as you're going through this process, that you reach out to me. And of course, if there are any questions that I have or information that I need to provide to you that I don't have, I'll make sure that I send to you. Now, in terms of reconciliation, again, make sure that you develop a reconciliation process for Golden Leaf. There are some colleges that have processes for doing that. So make sure that you just reach out to whoever that contact is in the business office to ensure that they're showing what you awarded to students on your total, that their expenditures match yours. And I wanted to mention making changes to your Golden Leaf spreadsheet. We had several colleges, we would reach out in regard to making changes to your spreadsheet, and we really appreciate all of your attention to getting this done. We just want to make sure that when you make your changes and your adjustments to your spreadsheet, that you send it back with your password. And I know it seems like a small thing because, but there are 58 colleges out there. So if we request that you make a change to your password, and we have correspondence from 58 colleges in our emails, that we have to go back and do a search to find out what your password is. So it's very important that when you make some changes, to make it really simple and easy for us to know that you've updated those changes, just send your password along with it. And that will be very, very helpful to us. Okay, let's go to, our tips on page 2. Providing updated spreadsheets. And this is just another note for you as you provide your spreadsheets to us. Because it's important, again, the counties, that's one of the things that show up most often, is that there could be an ineligible county in there, and we may send it back to you. Golden Leaf may notify us. We may not have picked it up. So we want you to be the first point of contact for correcting discrepancies before you even send them to us. And just make sure that you send it to us by the required deadlines. If you make a correction and we haven't sent a notice to you, it's okay to make a correction on your report and send that to say, we made a correction, we removed this particular student from the list, or we added another student to replace them. Okay, so let's talk about, and I think I've already talked about providing the passwords for the spreadsheet, so I don't need to say anything about that. Just make sure that when you are completing your spreadsheets, that you are clear and following the directions that have been provided to you in the template that Brenda provides to you. She will provide a template, an updated template to each college, so that you will have it prior to beginning to complete your spreadsheets. Make sure that you follow the directions in reporting your fall, spring, and summer awards, and clearly identify the award periods. And when you submit that to us, that will be so helpful, and it will make it easier for us as well as we do our review of your reports. And our last page with tips really is very basic. It just tells us, we just want to let you know that we will be doing another workshop in January. We will reach out to some colleges, but if you have some great tips that you want to share in terms of how you award curriculum students, how you award continuing ed students, then we want you to share those best practices with the group. Because we learn from each other, and we know that you do because a lot of times colleges will tell us. And so we want to make sure that we're sharing that information. So we want, if you are able to and willing to share the great things that you're doing at your institution, please send your name to me and I'll make sure that I include you on the list of colleges that will be reporting and sharing that information in our next presentation. And those things that we want you to share are your best practices. We want you to share your reconciliation processes because we know that how busy you are, and sometimes you might have a reconciliation process for your federal aid and your state aid, but you haven't really developed a process for your Golden Leaf. So if there's somebody that has that already written in their procedures handbook and want to show how they're doing that, or if you're someone that has a process and just haven't put it in writing and want to share it and it's worked well for you, we want you to share that as well. And more than anything, we want colleges to spend the continuing education funds that are out there for those students. We want you to follow the guidelines set by Golden Leaf. We are required to ask that you're required to follow those guidelines if you participate in the program, that you award the funds to continuing education students. And we don't want you to wait until the end. Those students are enrolled in your school now and need those funds. So if you haven't started awarding them, haven't developed a process, we want you to go ahead and to do that as quickly as possible. So if you're interested in presenting in our next workshop, we ask that you contact me by December 15th. Just send me an email, and then I'll reach out to you later on with a date, and we'll get you all set up for the spring. And I am at the end of my presentation. I don't see any questions in the chat box, but I am going to pause here to see if we have any questions. And I'm going to ask John because I'm a little bit further away. I think I can see it. We have one from Katie, and she says, our summer term does not start until June 5th. Would you suggest that we award fall and spring only? As of May 31st, we will not know if the student will actually attend the summer class or not. My response will be, when do students register for the summer term? Do they register for the summer term in June, or do they register in May? If you know that the student is going to register in May, then I would suggest that at least you make the award as soon as you can before May 31st. If you make it in June and your business office does not send the expenditure award to the system office by June 25th, and that award expenditure gets to the system office by July 1, then those students can't be paid. They can't be, we won't receive the money from Golden Leaf. I think that's a question that you have to remember, is that the funds have to be reported by June 25th. And the reason that we say May 31st as a deadline is to ensure that that student is awarded and that those funds, because May 31st, if you make the award June 1st, and your business office doesn't report it to the 25th, or your business office is delayed for whatever reason, and we don't get it until July 1, we can't pay that student. You can't be reimbursed for that student. Your institution would probably have to identify another source of funds to give to that student. And so that's why. So it looks like our summer registration is in June 1st. So what I would say, Katie, is to get with your business office. Find out how they can report those funds to the system office as quickly as possible, so that those expenditures that you spent for summer are reported prior to July 31st. June 30th, because that is your last day to submit the request to the business office. And if it's not in, we cannot pay those funds. Golden Leaf will not pay those funds. We can request them, but they won't pay it. There's a question that says, when will the template be submitted?
That question came from Nadine. Nadine, we are working on the template now, and in order for you to have it back to us by January, I can't remember the date right offhand, but we will be getting it to you probably before you leave for the Christmas break, if not sooner. I'm going to say you'll have it by before the middle of December, or by the middle of December. Okay. But it will come with an announcement as well as instructions on completion. And as Dr. White indicated, there will be a certification piece added to the report so that you are confirming the information that you're providing is true and accurate, that the counties of residents have been verified. And this would be for your curriculum students as well as continuing education.
Okay. Okay, and there is another question. I want to say it's from Katie. It says, do we still use the selection matrix when determining eligibility?
I think that question came from Sheila Dockery, and I believe that matrix that you are referring to was from a few years ago. You're not required to use that matrix, because I think that the matrix that you're referring to also had some additional requirements in there, and it was for continuing education specifically. It asked about maybe TRIO and also some other factors that we're no longer using. So if your college has actually designed a matrix specifically for continuing education students that would make it easy for you to award Golden Leaf, you can certainly use your institution's matrix. But please keep in mind that a lot of the requirements that were in place for continuing education have been removed. And I know that there was a question some time ago about ways to determine need for continuing education students, because we removed the unemployed, the earned income credit piece, all of those verification things that we felt like and Golden Leaf agreed were barriers to students. So it could be as simple as, if a student completes an application, the Golden Leaf application, or if you have altered it in any way, your institution's application, that is a demonstration of need for continuing education. If you're going to use that as your method of awarding or determining eligibility, please, I encourage you to make sure that you include that in your office policies and procedures. Keep your office policies and procedures updated.
Okay. Okay, so we have, I think we have
Joey's.
Yeah, from Joey's. So for clarity, all of our reports need to be by fiscal year instead of academic year. The answer to that is the awards for Golden Leaf are academic year. It covers fall, spring, and summer. Fall, your reports are due by January 13th. This is for fall from January through December. For spring, your reports are due no later than May 12th. This is for your spring semester. So these are your reports that we're asking you of what students you awarded during spring. And then of course, summer. You may have some students that attended summer before that ended at the end of, I guess, June 30th, because your awards have to be made and dispersed by June 30th. Those reports for that period would have to be due to us by July 14th. So when we say your summer awards your summer report is due no later than June 14th, it is based on any awards that you made during the summer. It seems like we may have some colleges that may have some difficulty in getting summer awards out there if they don't have summer applications before June 1. There are schools that have students who apply for aid for summer school, and they do it prior to June 1, prior to the starting point. So we're going to ask you to look at your processes to see how you can make it happen, but at least by July 14th is when we need that report, that final report that we have to review and send to Golden Leaf. Our Golden Leaf closeout report, this is when we have to verify that everything that you submitted for all terms for the fall, the spring, and the summer is correct. We review those reports. We also sometimes get notices back from Golden Leaf saying that there's the college included an ineligible county, and you may have missed that. So we will spend time between July and September 30th reviewing any information that's included in all three of your reports to make sure that they're correct before we send it to Golden Leaf to get our final payout. Because again, the funds are coming from Golden Leaf. So we have a question. Go ahead.
Another thing that I would like to add to Joey's question regarding fiscal year, the funding itself, when it is approved, it is approved for a period that starts July 1. And for Golden Leaf and some of our other funding sources, Golden Leaf in particular, begins the grant award begins July 1 of 2022. And it ends June 30 of 2023. So by the time that you receive it, and I know what you're referring to when you say academic year, our academic year starts in August. So it's immediately following that fiscal year start. So what we're asking for with the reports is for in January, when we're asking for that fall report, this would include all of your awards and expenditures. Your business office requests this funding a month behind. They're a month behind. So in January, when you provide that report, we are looking at all of the students that have been awarded Golden Leaf and funds have been transmitted from your business office, and they are referred to as expenditures on our end. So that would include August through December.
What about July?
August through December, because your academic year normally starts in August. So, and then for your spring term is January through May. Part of your academic year, but it's still within that same fiscal year of July 1 through the June 30 of 2023. Summer has always been our trailer for community colleges, And we do realize that a lot of our summer terms start late May and early June. However, in order for System Office to meet their June 30 deadline for reporting, that's why we ask that it is super important. If you're not going to award all of that money for fall and spring, and you're reserving a little bit of it for summer, it needs to be awarded to students no later than May 31, and you would work with your business office to determine their closeout dates for not cutting any more checks so that they can reconcile by June 30. And I know that this sounds like a lot, it's confusing, it's probably as clear as mud, but that's a way that I would kind of look at it. There are some options for you. Again, use all of your money in fall and spring, and you can kind of relax in June that you're not going to provide us with a summer report at all. Or if you're a school that awards just by term only, you've got to be very careful and work closely with your business office to determine what their dates are, their cutoff dates for cutting checks, asking for reimbursement from Golden Leaf. Because anything that is transmitted after June 30, July 1, it goes on the next year's award.
So Joey has another question.
I think Brandy had one.
Okay, okay. Brandy, if you use summer as a header for the academic year, can you use it for that term? Can you use July, any awards that you made in July?
If summer is used as a header, Brandy, that funding would go towards the next year's expenditures.
Would it go to fall, toward fall?
Mm-hmm. It would be in colleague, it would be awarded under the current summer term, 2023 summer. But as far as expenditures, the way that it would look like on the books on this end, it would be recorded under fall of 2024 or fall of 2023, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I think Joy is asking something very simple. It says, the issue we had last year was that we had to remove funds for a Con Ed student that we found was ineligible after July 1, which was on a different fiscal year. That's why our XDBR report and our FA report seem to contradict each other in this year. And I never felt like we received clarity on how that should be handled.
Okay. And I see exactly, I understand what you're saying, Joey, but anything after July 1 is not going to be, it cannot go back to the previous year, the previous year's award. And that's really the best answer that I can provide. And I know it's not a good answer. But what we are planning to do this year and will continue to do is we will monitor your Golden Leaf Awards. And also, if it would be helpful to you, we will provide you with a report of what your business office has reported or requested as reimbursement. So your awards, if you awarded $11,000 in the fall semester and your business office has only requested $10,000 of that, there's a $1,000 difference. So we would encourage you with the information that we will provide is that you and your business office kind of sit down and compare apples to apples, awards to expenditures. And that, it's going to be, again, very important that as you get close to the end of the year, that you will, before that June 30 deadline, that you are working very closely, hand in hand with your business office. Because bottom line is, what we have seen from the 3-year program review that we had with Golden Leaf was that some of our colleges, the financial aid office was awarding the monies, assuming that they were being dispersed, but your business office never requested the money. And that's an issue for another area at the system office, but that was the case.
Okay, do we have any other questions?
You're welcome, Joey.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, I think all questions have been answered. If there are any other, and we're right here at 11:07, we've got another one. It looks like, okay,
Scroll back up.
I gotta scroll up and see if I can
read the whole thing.
Read it. Okay, this is for Katie, from Katie. In regards to Golden Leaf, what was the residency verification requirements for CE students? We have 2 CE students who have provided a North Carolina driver's license with their Golden Leaf application, but were determined out of state, likely in error. When they did RDS for the STWD application, I have no doubt both students are North Carolina students, but they are unwilling to work through the reconsideration process with RDS. I know that they are ineligible for, what's that, STWD, based on the out-of-state RDS determination. But what about Golden Leaf in the past? We've only required North Carolina driver's license for CE students as residency verification.
Okay, Katie, I'll take a stab at that one. Your short-term workforce development grant, that one required RDS to determine eligibility or to determine North Carolina residency. Golden Leaf does not require RDS as a determining factor that you would need to determine that they are a resident of North Carolina. They have to reside in one of the eligible counties as was provided to you by the Golden Leaf Foundation.
Thank you, Brenda. And Katie, if you have any other questions in regard to that, just reach out to Brenda or reach out to myself, and we'll talk a little bit later about that if you need additional clarity. And I don't think we have any other.
And just another thing that I'd like to point out to you all is that Golden Leaf this year was a little bit late in approving our allocation, or let me back up and say that they approved us for the $1.75 million in Golden Leaf awards to our students. However, we were late in receiving the funding, so your business offices were made aware, and I think it was as late as September when your business offices received a memo indicating their instructions on how to request the funding. And I think that I sent it out to the colleges, but we'll, just to be sure, and if you did not receive it, a copy of the memo that went out from our system office, business office here, I will send it out to you all again.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. At this time, we're going to move to our resource page. I want to make sure that you all have all of our resources. You have our contact information. We've shared that with you before, but I want to also make sure that you have all the resources. We've provided the links for you. If for some reason you did not copy this information or you haven't saved it anywhere, maybe in your favorites or in your Golden Leaf file for 22-23 year, Please make sure you include the State Board Community College allocation letter. Also, that includes your college allocation and all the college allocations, really, for continuing ed and curriculum. Also, we provided to you the scholarship program guidelines and application. If you don't have that saved somewhere, make sure that you save it. In addition to that, the qualifying counties list for 22-23. Make sure you have that saved in the 22-23 year, because that is something that you need to refer to. I'm not sure if there's a way, if any colleges have a way to double check the records to make sure, well, in colleague, I guess, to make sure that you check the ineligible counties through colleague. If somebody has a method for that, that might be something that you might want to share with the group when we meet again in the spring.
That is something, Dr. White, that we're currently working on, and I would like to just give credit right now to Joey Trogdon. He actually has, he provided me with some rules that can be set up in colleague. Joey, I've been a little bit behind the curve on this, but I'm going to present it to the financial aid review team and also our BSAs to see if that's something that we can hopefully implement to all of our colleges. That would certainly help make this process a little bit easier for us, and it would help colleges to easily identify those ineligible counties, because it would not package an award if the student does not meet the the eligible county rule. So that's something that we're working on, and Joey shared it with me about a month or so ago. I've just not moved it forward, but plan to do so.
Okay, I'm going to finish these resources, then I'm going to get back to the two questions in the chat, one from Brandy and one from Samantha. Also in the resources, we have included the FAS Partner Connect that Brenda talked about a little bit earlier. There's a link for that. We also have an allocation for workforce residency grant program that she shared with you a little bit earlier. And we've included the link to the dashboard. If you have not gotten it, we put it in the chat box earlier. So make sure that you scroll down through your chat box and pull out the link for the dashboard, because we want all of you need to put it in your favorites so that you can go back at any time, even after you make awards, and check to see if the award totals in the dashboard match. You can also see in the expenditures line item what your business office has requested through the system office. It will show up in the expenditure portion. So we want you to make sure that you keep that and look at that on a regular basis as well. Okay, so we have a question first from Samantha Benson. Do students have to be Pell eligible to receive the CU Golden Leaf funds? As far as I know, students in the CU program do not complete FAFSA applications. And so those colleges that you said CU, they have to be eligible for funds. They have to be North Carolina North Carolina residents. I guess it is possible.
Yes, Samantha, for this question, if a student completes the free application for federal student aid for the appropriate year, and there is a demonstration of need, the student could possibly be eligible for the Golden Leaf Scholarship, even if they are exceeding their Pell LEU. Keep in mind that Golden Leaf has some minimal requirements, which is completion of the FAFSA and a demonstration of need. If they've completed the FAFSA, there is a demonstration of need, you can certainly make that award. But I encourage you, with anything that you are doing, make sure that you are updating your office policies and procedures manual. And just a little nugget, if you have students in that situation and they are pursuing a degree, I would certainly look at every option that I had available at my institution to make sure that there is some funding source for them.
Thank you, Brenda. And so we have a message from Brandy. She says, I already have that on the agenda for review team discussion.
Awesome.
So we are
Thank
excited about that, Brandy. Thank you so much. And then we have a thank you from Samantha Benson. So we are at the end of our presentation. We've exceeded, we've almost gone to the one half hour. So I want to take the opportunity to thank all of you for your patience. Thank you for your participation in this workshop. And we look forward to hearing from those of you who have some best practices that you can share with your colleagues. Please email me. It sounds like there's some of you out there that have some processes that are working for you, and we encourage you to reach out to me, send me an email, copy Brenda, or however you want to do it, because we're going to be putting together our presentation for January, and we want to make sure that everyone benefits from the processes that you've developed, and to ensure that we're all on the same page. Thank you. You all have a great day. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to stop the recording. But you all enjoy the rest of your day. If we do not speak with you or communicate with you prior to Thanksgiving, we ask that you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. Have a good day.
And don't forget to thank a vet this week. Happy Veterans Day to all that have served.
Happy Veterans Day.
As well.
Thank you.